Prince Barry asks, what if the Brief family found Goku instead of Gohan? Retconned in Dragonball Minus to, at age 3, we're not retconning the location of the Briefs to Omori's Island upon Goku's arrival. We're just going to keep this as simple as we can. The Saiyan known as Kakarot would descend to Earth. Not having a specific trajectory, as good as anywhere, he would land in the backyard of arguably the world's greatest scientist. Dr. Brief hears an earth-shattering explosion early one morning, which wakes him and his family, along with the majority of West City from their sleep. As the doctor casually goes out to investigate, he sees a sizable crater in his backyard. Ever the curious, he approaches with caution. As the dust clears, he begins to make out what is clearly a spaceship. Before his mind can fully grasp the situation, the ship opens to reveal a small, crying, monkey-tailed child. Why hello there! Dr. Brief picks up the boy to comfort him. He then takes Goku back inside. While the mature tights, around 18, would find fascination and awe at the small child, Bulma, around 7 years old, would probably get a little bit jealous having less affection towards him. Never having a son for theoretical reasons, we'll say Dr. Brief adopts the Saiyan as his own, giving him a name suiting of the Brief naming scheme. Boxa, which is a rough translation of boxers, which I feel works well both as a pun and the Saiyan child's fighting spirit. While the situation intensely catches Brief's scientific curiosity, he's always been more of a technological genius rather than a biological one. However, I don't believe it to be completely outside of his realm either. What person of science could resist researching a monkey boy that fell from the sky? As emergency crews arrive to Brief's front door, he diverts them by saying it was only an experiment gone wrong and he will happily pay the fine for breaking the noise ordinance. He doesn't want to attract any unwanted attention. Anyway, in the ensuing days, Dr. Brief would research the completely intact pod Boxa arrived in, and gradually begin developing a craft very similar to the one we see Goku get to Namek in the original series. He is mesmerized by the advanced technology. The Briefs begin noticing temperamental issues and unusual strength in the young boy, and nothing seemed to console him. This would wear on the Brief family, but they wouldn't give up on the boy yet. After a couple of months, Brief's spaceship would finally be completed, minus a gravity chamber, and Brief realizes that with this ship, humanity can travel further and more comfortably into space than ever imagined. Brief knows he's not the man for this job, as he is an inventor, and he's not an astronaut or explorer, but does know the significance of this invention. Eventually, Boxa would happen to gaze upon a full moon and transform into a great ape. And since he's not in the Paozu Mountains, this would have disastrous effects on the entire surrounding city and community. My guess is that during one of his more docile days, the Briefs would be taking Goku out on a walk through a park or the city. As night would approach, the random chance of it being a full moon would occur. Now, Dr. Brief has seen some weird stuff, but never a 3-year-old transforming into a giant monkey. With nobody knowing his tail or the moon is his weakness, there is little the city can do to stop the destruction. The reality is that with many witnesses, deaths, and millions of dollars in property damage, Brief would be in a little bit of trouble here. If one would snoop far enough into the situation, Brief would be presumed to have kidnapped or illegally obtained this child and experimented on him, since no record of Goku exists or that he is Brief's son. Of course, in this case, Boxa. This is only just assuming the Briefs would survive the slaughter. Boxa would begin to convulse while looking at the moon, and the Briefs would probably get in really close to tend to him, not knowing what's going on. They could simply just be crushed as soon as he transforms. While it's interesting to go either route, let's say they don't die here, because that's not what I think Toriyama would have done. Let's also say that, in a pretend magical world, that this is an anime and not the real world, and the Briefs are not arrested or charged with any crime. The sun arises and Boxa returns to normal. West City is looking less than stellar. The National Guard would have been called in within an hour or so after the incident began. Since it was about dusk, this would go on for quite a while. The military would manage to keep Boxa at bay, but there would still be heavy losses as their tanks and guns would do little against the Great Ape. So again, day breaks and Boxa returns to his child form, passed out from exhaustion. The military seizes fire. Those in command would debate whether they should subdue him or just execute him on the spot. Soon enough, Dr. Brief interjects and pleads with the men to let him take him. After some convincing, the doctor finally persuades them that he is the best man for the job of finding out what caused this transformation. For all we know, this is an epidemic. As months go by, Boxa is kept in a lab, decorated to keep it not so depressing for a young child, but a lab nonetheless. Dr. Brief makes a lot of discoveries about the boy, but is unable to definitively pinpoint what is causing the transformation. But he did take note the tail seems to be a host of a variety of hormones and glands that seem completely alien to anything on Earth, which isn't all that surprising since this kid literally crashed in a spaceship. Brief decides to try to recreate the conditions that set Boxa off in the first place, but takes him well outside the city. Every night for an entire month, he walked Boxa through the forest. 29 out of 30 times, nothing happens. But that one time out of 30 causes Brief to run for his life. While he doesn't yet have a scientific explanation, which would be the Blutz waves, he eventually does coordinate the appearance of a full moon with the transformation. He's a scientist, and his simple solution is just to mark all the days there will be a full moon and just not let the boy out after sundown on those days. Not long later, once Boxa's aggression problems become too much, since Brief only knows earthly science, his diagnosis is that Goku must have some sort of mental illness, which we still debate to this day. While mental illness is nothing to joke about, when the original Goku hit his head on Mount Paozu, it caused him to forget all the brainwashing the spaceship messages planted into his head during his trip to Earth, meaning the Saiyan's aggression is based on nurture versus nature, and because Gohan raised him to be a loving and caring child, we can deduce this. As weird as it sounds, after some mild brain surgery, I think Brief would be able to calm Boxa's wild behavior, in a positive way. It's not like he's lobotomizing him or anything. Believing this child is traumatized, he thought it would be better if he just forgot the short while of his life and grow up living as a peaceful person. Boxa, for the most part, is now a normal, functioning, monkey-tailed child. Remember, hit that like button, that subscribe button, the bell for notifications, and at the very least, do all that stuff for the goats at the beginning of this video. But for real this time, we'll catch you next time.